Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Addis Dialogue with the program. I'm Shifarao Lako, and my guest today is the young and talented CEO of Ethiopian Industrial Parks Development Corporation, Sandokan Debebe, and we're going to spend some time with him talking about Ethiopian industrial parks developments and the challenges that we face. To stay with us. Thank you so much for making the time to talk to us.
Thanks so much.
I think we should begin with the genesis of the Ethiopian Industrial Parks Development Corporation and the current status of the corporation. So can you give us a sense of the progresses and the challenges that you encountered so far?
The very notion of building industrial parks in Ethiopia is started in 2013 and 14, and with the aim of attracting foreign investors, creating employment opportunity, technology transfer, and so on and so on. But equally, as we all understand, especially in developing countries, the very challenge starts from the capacity that we have in terms of infrastructure, our institutional capacities, specifically from the service provision perspective, and so on and so on. So unless you create some conducive industrial landscape and ecosystem, name it for the foreign investors and also for the local investors, there is no way that our industry will compete with the global market. Exactly. And the second important point here is in this first and also in the second transformational plan back then, the national vision and objective is to transfer from the agriculture-led economy to the industry-led economy. So as a nation or as a country, you may compete, or you may transfer your economy with agriculture sector or mining and so on. Yeah. But you cannot be competent unless you build some resilient industry in the country. So that was the original aim of building industry parks, and with this government decided to establish the current IPDC in 2014. Okay. And from that on, we managed to build 13 different industry parks and operationalize them as of today. And it may continue in the futures as the market is demanding. Mm-hmm. So this is the original intention and the progress that we have until today.
Now, having already built 13 industrial parks across the country, I think the corporation envisions, a quick transition from agri-led economy to one that's being driven by industry. In this regard, what are some of the success stories and the challenges?
Before I directly jump into this specific question, as I said before, not only for Ethiopia, for all developing countries, right, infrastructural challenge is critical obstacles, and our weak institutions in terms of provision some competent services also the other challenges. So that's where the industrial parks are important. So the very notion of building these industry parks, as I said, is to provide those two critical challenges and to come up with better infrastructure and services. So in this journey, it was not easy because you are working in a very limited resource. So you ought to come up with some ideal infrastructure which can attract the foreign investors and also support the local investors. So it was not a journey that is easy. We have passed through several bumpy roads. Yeah. But when you see the overall achievement today, in terms of building this world-class infrastructure, not only building in terms of attracting hundreds plus foreign investors, with all those challenges, we can say that we have really achieved a lot, especially if you compare it with the other industry parks that were built like 30, 40 years back, even in Africa and also in the rest of the world. We are, of course, on the right track. Maybe to mention some of the challenges, even after you build those world-class infrastructures, you have a limitation on working culture in the industrial culture.
Right.
And also you are expected to build that trust that a foreign investor from Asia or Europe to come into these industry parks, to have products that's exportable, and also to bridge and build that linkage is not that easy tasks. So government were aggressively working on the promotion and also on the infrastructures. And on top of that, bringing those service providing government offices, which were working in a conventional way, and convincing them to be situated in one stop services, and to provide this quick and seamless services that should be a standard for the exporters and global manufacturers were not that easy. But I can tell you, in the last 5 years, we have learned a lot, we have changed a lot, and by now we have definitely introduced ourselves with a global ecosystem in building and operating industry parks.
I think Ethiopia is endowed with untapped labor force, and I think the industrial parks are the ideal places, to make proper use of such labor forces. In this regard, what is your corporation doing, and how successful has it been so far?
Even in our 10 years perspective plan, the industry sector is expected to create 1,300,000 employees every year, specifically on the manufacturing sector.
Okay.
So it's not a small number.
Of course, yeah.
And equally, our universities, privates and government universities, are generating thousands of graduates. So there must be some linkage that connect graduates or the other workforce with the industry sector. So as a PDC, it's important to see the current, the figure that I'm going to mention from what we have done in the last 5 years. Building industry parks in Ethiopia is a story of 5 years. The model project, the Hawassa Industry Park, is established in 2017. So since then, it's 5 years. Until 2019, we have only 3 industry parks or 4 industry parks, which are actually operating in different capacity. And the rest of, the rest industry parks, 7, 8 industry parks, came to operation after that. So the employment opportunity that we create today, the investors that we attract today, is success stories in the last 4 or 5 years, and majorly in the last 3 years. So as of today, we have more than 80,000 direct employees operating in the industry parks, specifically on the manufacturing sector. So it's not a small number. And if you compare it with a global scenario in the industry sector, you may not see an industry park or an initiative with the industry park portfolio who built these industry parks in a very short period of time, and also managed to create these thousands of 800,000 of employees in a very short period of time.
Right.
If you take Hawassa Industry Park today, we have more than 30,000 employees. If you go to Bolelemi today, you will see like 23,000 direct employees. Imagine, this is a direct employment opportunity.
Yes.
If you consider the indirect employment, I mean the canteen, those who enterprise sourcing food and related services, the housing, and the overall spillover effect of the employment, it goes to like 200,000 and above. So it's a big achievement, but from our target we are really long way to go, because our vision is to create 300,000 of employees in a very short period of time. And as IPDC, we have 10 years prospective plan. By 2013, we are envisioning to create like 700,000 of employees within this industrial park. So this is how we are planning and working.
Now, as a blossoming industry, Ethiopian industrial parks have already been, registering remarkable successes. However, I think the industrial parks need to go a long way when it comes to skill transfer, knowledge transfer, to keep up with the rest of the developed world. And skill transfer within the shortest time possible is, I think, the challenge that needs to be addressed. So where is your corporation in this regard?
Whenever we establish that those industrial parks, the critical challenge that our investors were experiencing were having this skilled human power, which is tailored to their industries. But after 5 years, when you have a conversation with the investors, what they are telling you today is, name it our graduates or the other workforce, they are a fast learner. Within like 2 or 3 months, they can jump from the training line to the production line. Okay. Look, fortunately, our industrial parks are offering the opportunity, an opportunity for those who had not been in this position, meaning they are not exposed for education, they are not graduates. Yeah. They may be collected from some rural areas, and those people were working on the agriculture sector. So when you bring them from that area to the industry sectors, it was not and it is not easy for them. It may start from lineup and working in a group. But today, these women, if the industrial park were not built here, these women are in a capacity today to export products for the global market. So it's a big transfer. Not only from this perspective, but in the regulation, in the industry park regulation, and also proclamation, there are strict articles how the foreign investors bring expats and which positions are protected for the local expats, experts. But beyond that, in fact, there are several factors playing here. But today we have local experts who are operating the whole factories as operation manager, as enterprise manager, and so on. This is a big jump. 5 years back, there is no single individual who is leading enterprises that is exporting for the global markets. So it's a big jump and also transfer. But we cannot say that we have done the journey. There is, of course, several activities and plans that we should go in the future.
How competitive are Ethiopian products penetrating the global market?
One of the top 5 exportable products in Ethiopia, the 5th one, is the textile and apparel sector. Wow. And it was not something on the list a few years back, 5 years back. Not only this, the rest 4 are either agricultural products or natural resources. So something that we are exporting from the industry is the textile and the garment sector products. So you can see how we are really jumping into the next level in terms of providing manufactured product to the global market. Not only that, even in Africa, we are one of the top textile sourcing country. This is also due to the existence of these industry parks. So you can tell so many stories and success stories that we have achieved in the last 5 years.
We are also having these foreign pressures, sanctions, threats of sanctions, and we also recently witnessed the suspension of AGOA. So how did you manage to fill the gaps left by the suspension of AGOA?
Before the conflict, as you know, the investment easily panic when it comes to security and instability. And even before that, the COVID issue was not something that we undermine in terms of effect. Yes. So the last the last 3 years was not easy in the overall investment landscape, and specifically on the business of the industry parks, name it for the enterprise and also for the corporations. So the AGOA had significant effect because most of our enterprises were textile and garments. So the very challenge that the COVID has brought to us, even in the last 3 years, people were not traveling from country to country. The coronavirus issues. Yes. So the business of our enterprises operating in the industry parks were highly affected. So what we did during that time as a government was we offered them several opportunities, like so that they can supply their products to the local market, and also to jump into the production of different products like medical products, masks, and so on, so that they shouldn't lay off their employees. We also gave them waiving in terms of paying for the shed rent and so on, so that to protect these investors. Following that, the instability issue had also significant impact, and name it in terms of wrong narration of the global community or international medias. The instability by itself affects every unit operation. There were times that our embassies were pushing the citizens to leave the country, so that was not easy for them. And the biggest challenge were, since the international media were wrongly broadcasting the actual situation in the country, the foreign sourcing companies, buyers, were not, they don't have that confidence to source or to give orders for the manufacturers in the country in the last 1 year and a half. Because if they're not certain that they are going to get the product at the right time and the quality, they were not going to give you an order for the manufacturers in the country. So that affects the productivity. That affected also our export and also employment opportunities. So the AGOA is one of that. One of the results of this instability. Unfortunately, most of our enterprise in the industry parks are working on the textile and apparel. So the narrowness of the priority affected our business. because most of these enterprises are relied or directly or indirectly associated themselves with the AGOA opportunities. So whenever we lose that opportunity, these investors were expected to look for another markets and market destination. So name it is 1 month or 2 months, it has direct impact on their businesses.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you see it today, most of the investors are considering different alternatives and opportunities. Some of them are revising their portfolio, how they can provide in the absence of AGOA for the US market. The rest are considering different market destination in Europe and Asia and so on. So they are catching up with the challenges. But fortunately, you cannot mention a single investor that closes a factory specifically due to the AGOA. So that's also an opportunity. The other thing that we have learned and that we are doing now is, as a government and as also as IPDC, we are working to diversify our products instead of focusing on a specific sector. Several industries focusing on different sectors are invited into the industry parks, which is equally, we're working on diversifying the market destination. Okay. Not only that, different opportunities like the Chinese opportunity, to import more than 300 million USD of agricultural products to their country, so that's also a big opportunity. We are repurposing our facilities. It's of course under study, so once we have concluded that study, we'll go for repurposing, revising our business portfolios. So sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. So we manage to see what we have and what we should do in the futures. So this is the overall scenario in relation with the instability, AGOA, and also COVID.
Okay, thank you so much for that explanation. Let's also talk about the industrial parks of Ethiopia. How environmentally friendly are the industrial parks of Ethiopia in different parts of the nation?
Initially, the motto that we have is actually to build eco-industrial parks. If you see in our website or brochures, our motto is to build eco-industrial parks.
Green industrial parks.
Green industrial parks. With this motto, of course, as a PDC and also as a government, we have gone extra miles to I can tell you in this way, we have gone extra miles to ensure these eco-industrial parks, or to build these eco-industrial parks. I can tell you some indicatives. The very first thing is, in our industrial parks, the power source are actually renewable energy. That's also one of the indicators. In all industrial parks, the waste treatments that we built are very advanced and built in a very expensive, with a very expensive investments. And these waste treatment facilities are with a capacity to release zero wastes to the environment. For example, if I mention some of the facilities that we have, we build these zero liquid discharges in most of our industry parks, Hawassa, Dredawa, Adama, Kilinto. These zero liquid discharges are state-of-the-art facility in terms of treating industrial waste and releasing zero industrial waste to the environment. So we recycle this industrial waste, 90-95%. We reuse that water for the industries. And not only that, this recycling the water has impact of minimizing the water usage of these industries. So it protects the water table of the environment. So it has a big impact in terms of ensuring eco-industrial parks in the regions. Equally, the very notion of building industry parks by itself is to protect the natural resource, name it land, infrastructures, and also natural resources like that of water, dry waste management, and so on and so on. So, unlike the other industries in the global scenario, our industrial parks, of course, are eco-industrial parks.
Maybe what remains to be done in this regard, maybe, in the future, that you should solve?
It's not easy to have or to build eco-industrial parks. It's even difficult even for the developed countries. Operating these facilities, state-of-the-art facilities, is very expensive. In one side, you want to ensure eco-industrial parks. In the other side, you want to protect and support foreign and local investors. So it makes all facilities expensive to operate in this kind of, or to balance this situation. So there may be a need to support this operation from the development partners and also from the government, because in order to exist this facility or work in this operation ecosystem, either you need to make some commercial investment and provide your facilities in a commercial prices in order to operate those facilities. If you decide to work on this business portfolio, you're not going to attract foreign or local investors. All facilities will be has a potential to become very expensive. So the investor will not going to choose your facilities. So there is a need to have additional, commercial investments to subsidize this kind of businesses. So as a corporation, as a public enterprise, we are actually working how we can continue balancing these two things and continue providing this facility, this operation for the investors.
Yeah, I think it also needs, concerted efforts of everyone, beginning from the lowest level to the highest level. Yeah. There are also these global issues, the Russo-Ukrainian war, and also other looming challenges, threats of sanctions, etc. So have you devised maybe new ways of coping up with potential threats against the industrial parks?
Yeah, the industry park ecosystem or landscape directly or indirectly is going to associate with the national and international business ecosystem. It cannot be an Iceland because most of your manufacturers or enterprises are global companies, so they will be directly affected by the global scenario. If there is a challenge on the logistic, they will directly start to bleed. If there is any global instability, they will face the challenge immediately. So there must be some support or coping up strategy with the global and national situations and the scenarios. As a PDC, we have opened up our industry parks for the local manufacturers as well, because during this time we're not going to get high flow of foreign investors during this time. Yes. I mean from Asia, Europe, and so on, because they have all their own challenges. Yeah. So unless there is some promising and stable global and national ecosystem, they're not going to go for investment, and nobody is interested to invest a penny unless they are insured. You grant them insurance that the business is something that is seamless. So there is a need to adjust our service. So the biggest strategies that we have erected in these days is we have opened up our facilities for the local investors, especially if they are exporter or import substitute or investors that are focusing on the import substitutions. So this is a big adjustment. We are also coming up with some incentives, additional incentives. For example, one of the decisions that the government has came up in the last few months is to open the local market for those enterprises that were operating in the industry parks. It at least gives some relief until the global scenario adjusts itself. But there are also studies on the pipeline to support and also revise our business portfolio in the industry parks, and also to support the enterprise operating in the industry parks.
Okay. Maybe finally, if you have some words that you want to convey, the floor is all yours.
The investment ecosystem is usually sensitive, and it needs the role of every partners, name it the government or the private sector. As IPDC, our major role is, of course, to build the facility and create the conducive environment. In this business portfolio, all service providers, infrastructure developers are the main actors, not the stakeholders. Unless the security system is stable, unless we ensure them that stability, unless we provide them uninterrupted power system and also telecom system and so on and so on, unless we provide them at least conducive logistic services, it is not possible for the investors both to export their products, to import their raw materials, and also to create the required employment opportunities. And these all facilities, services, or infrastructures are actually being provided by the other service provider, enterprise, name it government or private. So their attention, their response, their proactiveness affects the whole business of the industry parks. So these days, of course, especially in the last 1 year, the stability by itself, the instability by itself, were affecting the attention of the development agenda, or the attention of the government on the development agenda. So, but these days, there is of course a big shift. We are now discussing how we can improve our economy, how we restructure, how we rebuild the loss that we have encountered in the last years. So it's a big shift, but still it needs a special attention for the investment. That's how we can resolve the foreign currency challenge that we have, the employment opportunity that we have. So every government, offices, service providers, and all parties are required to give proper attention for the investment landscape and ecosystems. So we need, and on behalf of the investors as well, their challenge should be heard and resolved as in a capacity that is possible or in a way that is required.
Sandokan, thank you so much for making the time to talk to us.
Thank you, brother.
With that, we come to the end of today's program, and many thanks for your company so far. Until I see you next time with another program, it's goodbye from me, Shifaralak.